Is it recording now?
Yes, it's recording. Pronounce your name correctly. Is it
Yeah,
Eowyn?
It's Eowyn. David, I think your earphone after you adjusted sounds a little soft. So you might want to try that again.
Today we have yet another exciting guest. This time we are honored to have the CEO of Trust Wallet with us to talk to us about Trust Wallet and what is happening there, and also about how they are looking at Africa. And I want to invite Eowyn to introduce herself. Hi, Eowyn.
Hi, David, and hi, the Big Cat community. It's an honor to be here, and thank you for having me.
It's an honor to have you. I hope I pronounce your name correctly. Is it Eowyn?
It's Eowyn. So the funny thing is that it's a made-up name by J.R. Tolkien, who's the author of The Lord of the Rings. So
Oh,
this name is actually from The Lord of the Rings.
I'm a big fan of the Lord of the Rings. So,
Yeah, nice. Me too.
right,
That's why. Hence the name. Yeah.
awesome. So Eowyn, I think we can start by you introducing yourself and tell us who you are, how maybe you got into the crypto space and how you joined, Trust Wallet, and obviously your vision for the future of crypto wallets and the role Trust Wallet plays in advancing cryptocurrency.
I was born in China and then I grew up in the US. So I came to school here, and then after college, I was one of the unfortunate one to start a career in New York Wall Street. But it was also fortunate that I get to see that a lot of the financial infrastructure systems behind the scene are quite outdated. And the innovation speed has been slowed down significantly. I don't see myself climbing the corporate ladder in America. That doesn't sound too exciting. So I joined startups in San Francisco, try to open the markets. And at that time in 2017, there was the ICO craze. So half of the guys in the San Francisco city was talking about, crypto, some sort of shitcoin. And I was always being a contrarian. So for me, I was like, I'm not so sure that, are people's emotions or there's something truthful behind the technology. So when 2018, the market crashed, I thought, now it's an interesting time to truly look into what the technology has to offer to stay. So I was fortunate to have a couple of friends and people that I admire. They are dedicated and still building in the crypto bear market in 2018. And the hook for me to truly get into crypto was that when I was debating between either to thinking about AI and blockchain, those are very popular technology nowadays. I just realized that blockchain's decentralization and the check and balances of the power dynamics is what I consider to be going to be very important for human society from the ideological perspective. Then AI, which will be a concentration of power, concentration of data in order to enable the most effectiveness of the tech. So for me, I think the ideology, and then I also was fortunate to meet the co-founder of Binance, and she is a fantastic visionary that truly articulate that blockchain can be the value transfer system for internet, which previously has only been a free transfer of information. And I was excited by that vision, and I was also excited by and honored by her humbleness and honesty that want me to help her. That was also a challenging time for Binance back in 2018. So that's how I get into the crypto industry. And fortunately get to enjoy the wave of how Binance grow from tens of millions of users to hundreds of millions of users. And then here comes the pivot about why I come to Trust Wallet. So as Binance's grow bigger and bigger, I think it's very exciting to get a lot of new users coming into the space. But it also made me feel intellectually unsatisfied because I'm further and further away from the core of the industry where the innovations that happens and where the true on-chain blockchains activities are happening. And I have been friends with the founder of Trust Wallet, Victor, since 2018 when we first got included in the Binance ecosystem. And I always admire what Trust Wallet has been doing, which is just to build a simple, easy to use product that serves the new users to onboard the Web3. And when he says that he would like to have help, I saw the opportunity to take what I learned from finance, understanding of the users, and potentially thinking about how can we increasing the pie and the cake of the decentralized space in the actual on-chain Web3 world with more users to come in. So that's why I joined Trust Wallet, and it has been a year and a half serving in this role now.
Right.
And just to share a little bit more vision about Trust Wallet, we don't want to build like a company just for 1 or 2 years, getting quick money and leave. We've been in the space for 6 years now. And we want to build something that can last in the industry, that truly serve as the user's foundation and the core foundation for freedom. And that's what we think that, the core values for blockchain is ownership. And how people can have true ownership is through real self-custody. And then that's what Trust Wallet always aims to do, is to provide that freedom to own. And on top of that ownership is also the access to opportunities, because there are so many new project, utilities, experiments that are happening in the blockchain space. And then for people who want to access those opportunities, usually they will need to have a self-custody or Web3 wallets to do so. So we have this two-field mission. We want to empower ownership, and also we want to empower freedom to access opportunities. So that's the role that we want to see to play, is to provide that good one-stop shop, easy to use toolkit to enable people to do both ownership and opportunity access.
All right. Thanks, Eowyn, for that great intro, and also for the vision that you have for trust. And actually speaking about that ability for people to own, I know that Trust Wallet started as an Ethereum wallet, but expanded to multiple blockchains. I'll be curious to know, how did you prioritize which blockchains and cryptocurrencies to integrate into the wallet, and how do you do that moving forward?
So to talk about how we think about chain expansion, it has to tell from why we changed from being an Ethereum maxi to support a lot of different chains. So yeah, in fact, in 2017, when we first built the wallet, Victor first built the wallet, we just want to be the, people who can hold all their shitcoin on ICO, on Ethereum, on their phone, right? There was no product out there that actually do it. We serve and we're filling that gap. But then, when you understand the crypto industry development in 2018, that starts to have debates and discussion about Ethereum scalability and fee problem. So then it unlocks the world of multi-chain war happening in the industry. There were a lot more layer 1 chains coming out, Solana coming out, BNB chain coming out, etc. So then we get to see this flourishing of the different ecosystem that are providing different technical solutions and potentially enabling or giving room to other great projects to grow. And it was actually an inbound request from users. Users were like, hey, why can't you support this chain, that chain, blah, blah, blah. I believe there was a hard debate within the team, because the team actually have a strong belief just ideologically on Ethereum. But I think if that was to our principle to serve the users well, the team decides to abandon that ideology and say that it doesn't really matter what we think, it matters about what the users want us to help them with. So then the team starts to expand the multi-chain world for the past 5 years. And in fact, outside of the EVM type of chains, the non-EVMs like Solana, Bitcoin, etc., is very hard to integrate. Every single integration chain is its own work. There's no economy of scale. So, but the team for the past 5 years has just been dedicated heads down to support the chains. So right now we support 73 chains with all the latest popular chains that users want, then we will go after, such as the Aptos Suite, Arbitrum, ZK Sync, all those. So that kind of talks about our theory and philosophy when it comes down to chain support is where users want us to be. It's not about our own ideology. It is about what the user want to have access, and then we do our job to open the access for the users. So the number of the users, the community support, the development support is the most important thing for us when we consider. But then on top of that, we also want to exercise our own judgment call, such as how do we see the validity of that blockchain infrastructure? Through our engagement with the team, do they feel that they are legit, they are building here for the long term, or they're just like building for one year and then disappear, that type? And we try to minimize that. But those will be the secondary concerns that we have with regards to blockchain support.
Great. Now moving on to how Trust Wallet approaches security. The conversation these days is, control over your private key. Obviously, that's a conversation everybody is having. Do you mind telling us how does Trust Wallet look at security? And maybe how do you advise users when it comes to security, especially when using the Trust Wallet?
Security is very, very hard. I would say that when we're dealing with the on-chain world in crypto, this is probably the hardest problem. And I don't see this problem gets easier, especially with more people coming in. There's a bigger stake. When there are opportunities, there are also the dark side that we're fighting all together. So security includes two folds. The first one is the project's own security level. The second is users' security protection. So the first part is, how does the project and the team, like us, for example, Trust Wallet, how do we, in our day-to-day operations, in our day-to-day coding, in our day-to-day auditing, how do we ensure that we have the highest level of security that we can get to? Even though it doesn't guarantee that there's no security issues, because there's no 100% security, everything has risks. It's just a matter of how much that we can do to the excellence level that we can achieve to minimize that. So with regards to this, we actually had our own lessons about 6 months ago, more than 6 months ago. We realized that, hey, we didn't do enough auditing. We should have some policies and the way of understanding the different level of the code and the features release that might touches the different level of the user's key, and to determine the priority of having a different frequency for auditing. So we realized that problem, we learn our mistakes, and then we change our operations. So for the past 6 months, we have more than 30 audits for our code development. And both including internal auditing and external auditing. And we also have the benefit to leverage the security expertise that Binance has to do the security auditing for us. And I believe that we're probably one of the wallets out there that does this most rigorously now. And this is just to minimize how we do securities. And there was very strict SLA or requirements on, this level of the box needs to be fixed within this much of the time. Like it's like drop everything, fix the problem type of situation internally, so that we ensure that it's not just about the operations and the code, it's also the people have the right security awareness, because we cannot look over every single engineer's shoulder or every customer support agent's shoulder to ensure that they don't get phish or they made the right decision. So being able to build that culture of caring about security in the team is extremely important. And I'll have to say that almost all wallets who have survived long enough encounter different level of security issues. And if any wallets claim that they never had security issue, they're either lying or they just haven't experienced enough. And then it is to human weaknesses that usually in those mistakes we learn and we do better. So for the user's perspective, sometimes when you don't know how to evaluate the team's security level, look at the audits that they do, how frequently they do it, and also look at whether they have any policies, they have any postures on how they handle security operations internally. Do they prioritize developing features way over the security of those codes? Those are all the different things that the users can see to determine, funny enough, in a trustless world, whether they can trust this team on their development. So that's with regards to how the projects do their best. And then this is what we learned that Atom Wallet, Atomic Wallet previously a month or two ago had one of the really big hack, almost 100 million, we'll see what the final number is. And that was due to whether the team's own security posture is good enough. But then every month, more than 15 million users' funds are getting scammed. That's the second biggest problem. Or probably I would say even bigger, because in our own cases, we have seen that 95% of the cases where users lose money are because of scam issues and not hack issues. And with the scammers, my suggestion to users is that they didn't do anything new. They leveraged the fundamental human fear or greed, those two. So some of the common scam tactics to look out for includes, if let's say fear tactics is they will use whatever information channel to let you know that, hey, your phone get locked. And then in order to unlock your phone, you need to pay a fake Trust Wallet representative how much money, and they will unlock it for you. So that the users are falling for the trap because they're afraid of that they might lose access to the money. And then they fall for that scam. But the reality is, and here's what I hope users can do, is users understand that your fund is not managed by the wallet, like Trust Wallet, your fund is actually on the blockchain that the Trust Wallet team doesn't have access to. Then you will know that, first of all, there's no such thing that Trust Wallet can lock your account. And there's also no such things that if you lose your account, that Trust Wallet can retrieve it back for you. Neither are possible. So with a little bit of education and knowledge about how the blockchain works, how the self-custody works, and what true ownership means, you will really prevent the users from falling for those scams. But I would say 80% of the scams are actually putting on the greed. It will be some sort of projects that may leverage a fake Trust Wallet brand and say that, hey, this is Trust Wallet staking, and then you can give you really high APY. But then think about it. Why does the APY make sense? Where does the APY come from? Where does that reward come from? There shouldn't be any free lunch, right? If there is a free lunch, like this is a campaign or activities, it should be a very legitimate other business cases. Why it? So again, here is for users to think about things too good to be true. Always be skeptical and always verify the sources of information channel. That should be able to prevent 90% of the scam that the users are experiencing on a day-to-day basis. To help the users, we cannot, as I mentioned, how Trust Wallet works, self-custody wallet work is we cannot block any transactions. We cannot block any accounts. So what we can do is to inform the users. So we have a feature called Security Scanner. What it does is that when users are sending their funds to another addresses, if this address has been reported before or has been flagged as problematic address in the Binance risk and security database, it will show up a warning and say that this is high risk, so that users can know about, hey, like this is actually potentially a risky address. Do I really want to send my fund over? And then that helps the users to make an informed decision. And we will soon expand this feature to the dApps as well. So when the users are accessing the dApps, if there happen to be a scammer dApps, we will jump out with these warnings so that the users will get to see it. And of course, those databases are supported by users reporting. So users, if they encounter, probably going to be numerous scams, new things coming out every day. And this is going to be a collective community effort to help to get the database as updated as possible so that you can protect the users. So I will take a stop here. There's a lot of things that I just mentioned about user security, how we handle our own securities. But there is absolutely a lot of things that we can do for security. And I personally think that we should teach our kids about cybersecurity, just like we teach the girls how to protect themselves when they are walking on the street. We shouldn't assume that cybersecurity is less severe, it's actually more. So if everyone have that education, have that awareness, have the baseline to understanding how those tricks work, you will make the scammers have no place to live, and then we can give the space a much cleaner environment too.
All right, thank you, Eowyn. Clearly, I can see you really have a passion for security. I can see
painful. It's painful. Yeah.
Definitely, and thank you actually for highlighting some of those specific areas where Trust Wallet cares about security. Jumping into decentralized finance, obviously DeFi has gained traction over a few years. Can you tell us a bit on how does Trust Wallet support DeFi, the DeFi functionalities that DeFi support, and
David, I think your earphone, after you adjusted, sounds a little soft. So you might want to try that again. But I heard your question about the DeFi functionality and what do I think the opportunity and challenges. Right? So for DeFi functionalities, I think one of the most interesting things about DeFi for a lot of people to come in is the swaps. So started with a unit swap. It is how we use AMM model to automatically creating that liquidity pool that no longer requires order book that traditional finance and centralized exchange relies on. So we actually have a swap function that aggregates a lot of the EVM chains, and also quite a number of non-EVM chains like Bitcoin, Doge, Litecoin, etc. So for the users who actually wants to directly have access to more tokens, this is an opportunity. Just give a simple example, the token swap function on Trust Wallet supports more than 10,000 tokens, and this is just on EVM chains. While in comparison, I'll use Binance as an example since I know them more. The Binance listed token is probably about 200 to between 200 to 500-ish. Right? So if a user wants to access to a much wider options, the DeFi swap on Trust Wallet provides that easy opportunity for people. The second things will be staking. And this is a very signature one for the POS, public chains. So what it means is that you can choose to stake your tokens to a particular chain that contributes to the security of the chain. And in return, the users gets reward. We do the native staking, meaning that for 11 chains out there, users can choose to stake the relevant chain's token and directly get the reward from the chain without a middleman. And we charge nothing out of it. And this is users' funds directly contribute to the security. But users needs to be careful about choosing validator, which validator they trust. They also have a wide range of APYs, but users can also see whom they trust the most in order to make the wise choices. But we make the options available for people so that they can make the best decision for themselves. And we also have a lot of other open access and shortcuts to the different DeFi projects that the users can go to for their specific sites. And how I personally see the opportunities is that I do find the DeFi can provide way more inclusive options For example, there has been discussions on how does the real world assets, such as your real estate, your other asset, physical assets could be tokenized. And that can bring in liquidities to previously illiquid assets for the first time. And not only so, it's going to be open access for a lot more users rather than only small group of selected users have access to those assets. So I think there's a lot of interesting things that can come out that increase the efficiencies for the DeFi and the real world. And then I think DeFi does transparency very well. So the opportunity could be whatever in the real world and current physical world where transparency is a pain point, is an issue. And how can we leverage the blockchain and the DeFis to bring more transparency and then trustworthiness ultimately to those scenarios. And then the third one is the global markets. Previously in any traditional markets, every market is segregated. There's no open access. Like remittance is a very clear example of it. And then, but DeFi allows that globally, anyone from any corner of the world could possibly participate in this. But of course, there could be some level of restrictions based on the geographical regulatory situation. And that comes down to the challenges. I think the first one is that with DeFi, there are still in different uncertainties for regulatory, and that can make people feel afraid or unsure, even for builders, unsure about what they can build and not build. So this could slow down innovations and accessibilities. And the second is, last topic, we'll talk about security. Anything that's building on the blockchain, if there are smart contract, there are smart contract risks. Then it just exposes more potential vulnerable surfaces that can invite attacks. So smart contract risk is real, and then people should be very careful and be mindful about it. And then the third is the kind of scalability and cost. So it has previously, even with a meme coin, for example, just 2 months ago, right? Like the whole blockchain experience, Ethereum feels that, oh, it's getting a little bit congested, it slows down. And then why the transaction fee is getting much higher, the gas fee is getting much higher. So we'll still be experiencing how the blockchain world can truly solve the scalability transaction issue, even with Ethereum's ecosystem. We'll see how the users actually transition from the Ethereum mainnet to layer 2 or potentially layer 3, which are supposed to be the scalable and lower fee solutions for the Ethereum ecosystem. And so is for any other blockchains. So those are some of the key challenges that I think are related to DeFi.
All right. Thank you for breaking it down so nicely, Eowyn. I want to jump a bit into Trust Wallet and its dominance currently. So just for clarification, how many users does Trust Wallet have at the moment?
Yeah, so we have altogether for our mobile app, we have about 60 million total downloads globally. So this made us the world's largest mobile self-custody wallet out there. Besides mobile wallet, we also have browser extension. We also have more than about 500,000 of extension users since we launched a few months ago.
How many of those users are from Africa? I don't know if you have the number.
Yeah, I don't have the number on top of my head, but I do know that some key African countries seems to be a very big portion, at least the top 5 to 10 areas for Trust Wallet. So I'm personally very excited about Africa. And I'm excited in general about developing countries with blockchain. And this is where I think the blockchain technology and a lot of the utilities being built are solving the pain points that's way more severe in the developing countries than developed countries. Yeah, so in general, I'm quite excited about Africa.
All right. Thank you for sharing those numbers. In terms of, like I mentioned, the dominance of Trust Wallet, how do you plan to maintain that competitive edge and stand out from other wallet providers? There are quite a number of other decentralized solutions out there and wallet. How do you intend to maintain your edge
Yeah,
moving forward? Yeah.
yeah, definitely. I think competition is a great thing. Even when I was catching up with Victor a few years ago, he was just like, there are not enough wallet builders out there, so that we cannot learn from each other and then improve our own products fast enough. Because it's very tiring if you always have to be the one that always does the things for other people to copy. You have nothing else to learn from others. That was Victor's struggle, and now I don't have that struggle. I'll be like, great, there are so many different products and projects out there. They're doing different experiments. And we don't need to do those experiments by ourselves. We can see and learn from them and see what could be the best practices for the industries altogether to go. So I personally see competition to be a great thing. I do have the confidence though, why from in facing of the competition, I don't worry too much, is because even with such a new amount of wallets coming out, we from the data, third-party data that we see that our weekly, monthly active users market share doesn't drop, but actually increasing. And when I'm digging deeper into it, I think that it is very hard to build trust with the users, even in the decentralized, trustless world. Because a lot of the users, if it comes down to really asking them, how do you choose wallet? Where do you use Trust Wallet? The key thing is, how do I know if I can trust that product? How do I know I can trust that team? It's easy to build a product, but it's very difficult to convert the users to use it, especially when it comes down to, this could potentially, handling part of my money. So for us, we always focus on, we're thankfully having the trust with 60 million users. How do we maintain the trust and how do we continue to enhance the trust? So that's what we focus on. And I think that's the ultimate competitive edge. And there were a few angles. So the first one I mentioned a lot is the security. That's the foundation. And once you break the security trust, it's very hard to turn it back. And even if there is security issue, how to handle it to the point that makes users to feel that even if you have mistakes, they can still trust you is very important. So for us, I think a couple months ago, we had a security vulnerability that we proactively disclosed to the community. We lowered down the potential exposure and we warned the users in all the way. And for the users who actually suffer from that security vulnerability, we reimburse, we cover for them. And I think no one in the industry has done that well. And we try to take the first case to say that we own our mistakes and we will make users whole for our part. And I think it's very challenging. There were actually a lot of scammers reaching out to us claiming to be victims, but has nothing related to the security, vulnerability. It is what it is. But for us, we want to do the right thing to keep building the trust for the users. No one guarantees there's no mistakes, but we want to do the right things when there is a mistakes happened. And ease of use is the product. Trust Wallet, we were the first wallet to be able to be on mobile. And even nowadays, the OGs are still introducing Trust Wallet to newbie users who want to experience crypto, is because we're the simplest. Then there's nothing fancy about it that confuses people. In fact, we proactively take out quite some features because we realize that it serves the DGen users very well, but it doesn't serve the newbie users very well. Newbie users were confused by them. And we made the difficult choice to remove quite a number of them. So for us, being the simple option that can always be the people's go-to option when they come to Web3 is what we want to do. And the third is always try to increase the optionality and opportunities for people, right? Why do we do multi-chain? Why do we try to include more, token types? Is because those are the optionalities and opportunities that users want. So we want to be that good bridge to open that doors for the users so that they can access it. And that's what we have always been striving for. That's why with the swap, we have a large selection of the tokens, and also with fiat on-ramps. We have the widest amount of fiat currency coverage, and we also have Binance P2P. So that for users in countries who doesn't have any good banking system for them to come into fiat from the payment channel, they can have each other, thanks to the Binance P2P network. And that comes down to the second point, is that we do have a unique synergy with Binance that others don't have. So for example, in our own app, users, if you're worried about fat finger problem where you're transferring funds from centralized exchange to on-chain wallet, in the Trust Wallet, there's a feature called transfer from exchange. And we integrate with Binance and Coinbase. So users can just directly, with a few taps, transfer in the funds. We're not worried about that they copy the wrong addresses and then, all those different areas. And this is unique to us because it will be very hard for Binance to do that with any other wallets, but they can do it with us. So we have that unique synergy with the Binance ecosystem. And the third, so talking about building trust, synergy with Binance, and the third is community and brand. Personally, I think in 10 years, the product and technology is going to be table stake. Like we wouldn't be discussing that much about, the product and tech nuanced differences. Just like you wouldn't talk about this toothpaste versus that toothpaste for a long time. But what matters, I personally think, for people on Web3 is that experience, that relationship, that journey that you get to grow yourself. You get to have yourself is very important. And that's a unique human relationship that users can have, people can have, more than just the technology itself. That's what technology needs to enable, ultimately, is that community. So no other wallets focuses on community building, but you know that we have George, who's going to be our first African community manager. He will be the one that focuses on how do we build up a community locally? How do we educate each other? How do we have that camaraderie for people who are having the Web3 journeys to be together, support each other together? And even with you, David, right? Like being the educator out there, being the trailblazer, you try to bring people along with you. We need more of that. And then we want to be building more than just a product and technology. We want to be a foundation that serves community building and human flourishing. That matters to us in the long term. And I think that's the biggest competitive edge in the longer term. So I will stop here. Those are quite a lot of the thoughts that we have in the back of our mind for us to build, the right product and services for the society.
All right. Thanks, Eowyn, again for that nice breakdown. Now, as we wind up, I want to go back to the users, Trust Wallet users, and the use cases. Do you mind telling us, you have the data, obviously, what are the key use cases you've seen for Trust Wallet among your users? Why do people want to use Trust Wallet? And where do you see this going?
We actually primarily serve a lot of the developing country users. And of course, by being self-custody wallet, the first part is self-custody, having people to better ensure that they get to have their assets on the blockchain themselves. So the primary use case that we see is people who want to have that full control, people who want to have that privacy, easy onboarding, they use Trust Wallet. So that's the first use case. The second use case is also the fundamental use case for blockchain is send and receive, the transfers. I personally think that has a lot to do with remittance, cross-border remittance. So interesting enough, one of the biggest chain that's used on Trust Wallet is Tron. And why is because people are using USDT on Tron. So it suggested that, people are doing this for remittance. People do that for having access to the US stablecoin, potentially hedge against the fiat system, the currency challenges or risks that people are having. And that is still because of the fundamental, use case of the blockchain. And wallet ourselves are just an enabler of them. Then besides the ownership, the self-custody, the on-chain transaction, we do see a lot of the DeFi usage, way more than NFTs. I think the previous market cycle does make it challenging for NFTs. So the DeFis are booming, the stakings are booming, and the swap volumes are booming. And funny enough, even with bear market, we do see that users are coming more into the on-chain world from the fiat world. So it just shows to me very healthy that people are proactively getting converted and are still moving towards the world on-chain. And we are happy to be a bridge for them.
Thank you, Eowyn. I think this was a really nice, exciting discussion. So now for people who are listening to this, who've had Trust Wallet for the first time, they want to get started, where would you advise them to get started or to go and start using Trust Wallet?
My suggestion would be, definitely follow our social because you get a lot of tutorials out of it. The first step would be, if you're a centralized exchange user, you can start to use and transfer your first fund to Trust Wallet on-chain using the transfer from exchange feature or directly withdraw to that wallet. It is very important because the moment that Victor was the first one that sent me 1 BNB back in 2018 to my Trust Wallet. And he was like, do you have anything on your wallet? I say, no, I have it on Binance. And he said that, no, you need to get to have a taste about actually having it on the blockchain. So he transferred that BNB to me. At that time, it was $5. And I do feel that psychological change. I feel that, this is on chain. This is my thing. I need to take care of it because there is no Binance that's going to take care of it for me. And it's truly my own. It is a very amazing and subtle feeling that everyone needs to get to have a taste. And that sense of ownership will help people to learn to be responsible for their decisions once they know that what this means. So just have that first step, having that first token, and then start to dabble around. You don't need to have too much. Just have a couple of US$ worth of tokens and then play around with all the different things. Try the different dApps. You may or may not like it. The experience may or may not be good, but you educate yourself. And I think the most important thing for any young people who are in your community, who are not just excited about using them, but also making a career out of potentially in Web3, your wallet is going to be your resume. Like when I'm looking at people right now, I want to see what their on-chain behavior is to tell how much of an expert they are. So build up your digital footprint on the blockchain is a way to build up your future and credibility as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for speaking with us, Eowyn. All the best to Trust Wallet. Hopefully I don't know when you plan to visit Africa. So, I think a lot of listeners would probably like to meet you or know when you're.
Yeah, I look forward to come too. And David, please let me know if your community or any of the listeners right now have any feedback and suggestions on what we can do better. Please just reach out to me on Twitter. That is Eowyn Chen. And because we don't have any user data, we don't know who you are, we don't know how to improve on it. Your feedback and your information, how you use the wallet, what you like, what you don't like, is going to be very valuable data points for us to improve our product for you. So please don't hesitate to let me know, David, even for yourself. If you think that we should do certain things that we haven't, please always let me know.
Definitely. Again, thank you for speaking with us, Eowyn.